They acted like the police department just ran him over. That's the narrative coming from John and Patsy Ramsey. The police did not want to approach John and Patsy Ramsey because they just told you they're in no condition to talk right now. In case you're wondering, we have not yet, the Ramseys have not yet talked to the police. That shows an element of understanding and care and empathy. That shows that the police department is continuing to consider your need. Our success is very good in homicide investigation. Over the last 5 years, 1990 to 1995, we have had 15 homicides in Boulder. We have solved 13 of it. That means we have an 85% rate of success with these investigations. They missed steps in this investigation because of what John and Patsy told them. You said it was a kidnapping. Oh, you bungled it. Because of you. Because of what you told me. I did what you said. And I get criticized by you for doing what you told me to do. These are not being hidden. These are news releases to the public to let people know what's going on in the case. I am becoming increasingly concerned at how the case in the JonBenét Ramsey unfolded. How JonBenét Ramsey case unfolded, I should say it like that. Becoming increasingly concerned because there are statements being made by John that the police were incompetent, the police bungled the case, the police did a terrible job, so on and so forth. Blah, blah, blah. The police wouldn't tell us anything. The police wouldn't let us in the loop. All of those things to where it makes it seem like, man, the police were just dead silent. And you know, coming from my perspective, it makes it seem like the police were moving in secrecy, like they weren't saying anything. But what I have here in front of me is a collection of police reports or police releases. You might remember we did a video with Leslie Ahom. Leslie Ahom, as you can see here, is she was the media relations or communication specialist for the police department. You probably remember her for her January 7th press conference that she did in 1997. And we reviewed that. But, you know, some of the statements that she made and about it was, she said that, hey, we continue to work with the FBI and so on and so forth. And I was like, man, you know, where did, and especially with respect to Detective Commander Eller, as one point, they said that John and Patsy and the death of innocents seemed to mention that Commander Eller had sent his minions to attack John and Patsy, and he thought that they had done this crime. But what I see here consistently is that publicly, you know, the Ramseys, publicly the Ramseys were not, I guess, mentioned. According to these reports, they were not mentioned as much as they let on. They made it seem like the police were just absolutely blitzing them in the media and just calling them out in the media. But they actually weren't. I think from these reports, they were just trying to be transparent. So you know, this is 78 pages. It's actually not a bad read at all. You know what I mean? I kind of scanned through it, you know, just kind of reading through and, you know, just kind of going through this and that and stuff like that. There's a lot of good stuff in here if you're a crime junkie. If you're thinking about the podcast that I said that, Ashley Flowers. But if you're a true crime individual, then this might be of some interest if you've not already read it before. I'm pretty sure a lot of you who are kind of going through this case have. But so I'm not going to go through all 78 pages. I'm just going to go through several pages. I'll say quite a few, but not quite a few pages that I pulled out for myself. So to start off, there was one arrest made over these cases. One arrest, I think, pertaining to the case. There were two other arrests, according to these reports. There were two other arrests made but I think they were somewhat unrelated. One was related to Pasta Jay Alowski, where he had, went outside and acted a fool. And he was trying to scare off, basically, essentially trying to protect John. And he was trying to scare off, people, because he was mad that, people were in front of his restaurant waiting. And so they said he took a bat, he took a bat to people. And so he was arrested on felony menacing, I think, or something like that. And I was like, yo, that's crazy, man. Going to bat literally for your friend. That was one arrest that was made that's unrelated to any suspects. And then another arrest was made, some guy named something Michael Thompson or something like that. It's all in this report. This is update on the homicide investigation, I think is the name of this report. It's at bouldercolorado.gov/media/2923 /download inline =, I think it's the ampersand sign. It's like the number sign, the pound sign. I think it's not the ampersand sign, it's the pound sign. Page equals 50.12. So that's bouldercolorado.gov/media/2923 /download inline number sign page equals 50.12. And this is the update on the homicide investigation released by the police. And it's a PDF, and you'll see it if you're interested in just browsing it again. Those were the only arrests made, two of which were kind of unrelated. This Michael Thompson guy was arrested for trying to break in to something. But in terms of suspects of the case, that was nothing. I count 46 case updates in this file. Obviously, as you see it dates from December 27, 1996 to jumping to the last page here, to the point to where Susan Stein had, impersonated Chief Beckner, which was really weird. But looks like December 20th of 2002. So from 97 to 2002, these are reports that are consistently coming and being updated in the Ramsey case from the police's perspective. Now, let's get started. So it's not like they're hiding. So let's get started. We'll skip to page 1. And we know I guess we can kind of read the sort of preliminaries. So the Ramsey case, new release index, update on the homicide. Boulder police are continuing their investigation of the death of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey, date of birth 8/6/1990, which was reported on Thursday, December 26th. Detective Commander John Eller provided the following chronology at a news briefing on Friday, December 27th. Said police responded on December 26th to the home of John and Patsy Ramsey, 755 15th Street in Boulder, following a 911 call. The call from Patsy Ramsey stated a note had been found indicating their daughter had been kidnapped. Officers initiated an investigatory response to a possible kidnapping for ransom. The Boulder and Denver offices of the FBI were requested to assist, as was the district attorney's office. The initial stages of the investigation were directed towards preparing to comply with the ransom note instructions. Detectives remained on the scene with the family at approximately 2 p.m. A search of the family home produced the body of the missing girl. An autopsy was conducted on Friday, December 27th, and the Boulder, Colorado coroner's, Boulder County? Boulder, Colorado, could be one. It could be either two. Boulder, Colorado coroner's office has determined the cause of death as asphyxia due to strangle. The manner of death is homicide. The victim, JonBenét Ramsey, and I censored myself as much as I could on that one. That's why I said it that way. The victim JonBenét Ramsey as a student at High Peaks Elementary School, 3740 Martin Park Drive. This is that charter school that I think she was going to, and then eventually Burke switched over to. Park Drive. The parents are John Ramsey, CEO and president of Access Graphics, and Patsy Ramsey. There is an older brother who lives at home and 2 adult siblings who live outside the home. Commander Eller added, the family has been cooperative and our investigation is continuing. The Boulder Police Department's Victim Services Unit is coordinating crisis services with the Boulder County Mental Health Center and school district officials. Parents may call the Victim Services Unit at 441-3332 for information or assistance. As of 4 p.m. Friday, December 27th, no arrests have been made and there are no suspects. The investigation is ongoing and updates will be provided as new information becomes available. So on December 27th, they're saying we're still coordinating victim services. Family is cooperating with our investigation as far as we want them to. It's continuing and we are still using victim services. We have gone as far as setting up mental health services at schools. So parents may call this line. We have a crisis hotline here for you to call. So we have yet to make a formal accusation against the parents. What you're seeing here very briefly, and you can find this online from some research that I was doing. Very briefly, the individual that you're looking at, and some of you may know him, is Hal Haddon from Haddon, Morgan and Foreman. These were John and Patsy's lawyers. This here is an oral history of Harold A. Hal Haddon. Historical Society of the 10th Judicial Circuit, oral history of Haddon, interviewed by Stephanie Howard, December 6th through December 7th, 2020. And so this is legitimately, and Stephanie Howard and Hal Haddon in 2016. So this is legitimately him. This can be found online. I actually found this in relation to something I was looking up on Hal Haddon, with Ghislaine Maxwell, which apparently she hired Hal Haddon. And so that if you're looking for a tie between John Ramsey, and the Maxwells, as far as I could find, this is the connection. But, Haddon, Morgan and Foreman represented a lot of high profile cases. Kobe Bryant, as we said, a hockey player, other people, and obviously the Ramseys. So this was their bread and butter, these high profile cases. So early years in Michigan, undergraduate, Albion College, travels with Charlie, master's degree in polling. Okay, so that's what I thought. Duke Law School, Colorado and Beverly, Davis, Graham and Stubbs, Colorado politics, military service. This would be cool to go through. I just haven't got to it yet. Military service. Okay. Colorado State Public Defender's investigator, which he did. So he kind of knows, which would seem to me, okay, whatever. Investigators, People versus Snead, People versus Randolph, The Daily Double, Brian Morgan, U.S. versus Bishop, founding of Haddon, Morgan and Foreman, U.S. Peter Kiewit, Sons and Co., Rocky Flats, the Crawford Hill Mansion, blah, 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 U.S. British Petroleum. This, I think, was mentioned in the LA Times article, where they ended up having to only pay like $18.5 million by all when all was said and done, because they were contaminating something. People versus Rosick, JonBenét Ramsey and Kobe Bryant, and then so on and so forth. But what I'm bringing this up for, in relation to our conversation, is skipping to, I think, page 141. When the Ramseys, I want you to see what was going on the Ramsey side simultaneously. Page 141. I've highlighted this in connection to something else, but this is what the lawyer for John is saying. We said this, that, and the third. They thought, the Ramseys were child abusers. This is a long way of saying what happened to me on December 27th of 1996. because I got a call from the Ramseys' corporate lawyer, terrific guy named Mike Bynum, who said, my dear friends have lost their daughter, and the police simply, it seems, want to charge them with it, and there's no way they could have done it. This was on December 27th of 1996. John was fighting to get his daughter. I think you'll see in one of the books, I believe, he said that he was fighting to get his daughter from the police. And I think it was either Steve Thomas's letter where he kind of backs that up, like, you know, hey, we were still trying to do the autopsy of the body. We wanted to see other things, or I think it's going to be these investigative reports. We were still trying to do an autopsy of the body, and we couldn't do it because John was yanking the body from us. We still had things that we wanted to see. So anyways, that's a little background. So while on December 27th, no arrests have been made, there are no suspects, Mike Bynum and the cops are still coordinating victim services. Mike Bynum is on the back end convincing Hal Haddon that the police are looking at the Ramseys very intensely. Well, what would they have done as of 4 p.m. on Friday, December 27th? So I think it said that Linda Arndt, when the Vanity Fair article Missing Innocence, where Anne Louise Bardock kind of talked about this, where I think Linda Arndt went over and was trying to befriend Patsy and was trying to talk to her and was trying to get through to her and try to get some information. And so basically very early in the investigation, Mike Bynum, as we can tell from both ends, Hal Haddon, John's lawyer, said, hey man, on the 27th, I got a call. The investigation has not gone anywhere. Oh, the police, they bungled this thing. How would we know in a day? From a very early point, the very next day, there is a coordinated effort we can see to start shielding the Ramseys from police involvement. Please help me understand how much of a legitimate investigation you can do in one day. It takes months for a full-on investigation to come to light. You know what I mean? That means you have to ask parents multiple times. We have to get your story multiple times. You're going to have to work with us multiple times. The Ramseys jumped in here and said, immediately, we're going to get a lawyer. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But they were saying, oh, they won't look at anybody else. Why would they? It's December 27th at 4 p.m. We haven't yet fully taken victim services off the plate. Even though we're starting to look at, even though they know it's homicide at this point, they are still coordinating victim services at the schools. Why would they be looking anywhere else? Please enlighten me. Oh no, somebody else. Enlighten me. Why would they? So let's go to page number 3, where I want to start. And of course, I'm skipping around. But I'm skipping around to things that meant something to me. That's not necessarily to say that anything else is useless, but page number 3, December 29th of 1996, the body of JonBenét Ramsey has been released to the family. This is on December 29th, because I wanted to piece this together. This is important because I wanted to piece this together to know when exactly they were asking for this body. 27th, we're still setting up victim services. We get a call from Mike Bynum, and then the coroner's report comes out on the 27th. Is final on the 27th, according to Commander Eller. And so here we go. The body of JonBenét Ramsey has been released to the family, and it's expected the body will be flown to Atlanta for burial by the family. The family will accompany the body to Atlanta. We believe this probably occurred today, Sunday. Yeah, because the funeral was on a Tuesday, on the 31st. The family continues to cooperate with the police investigation, although police have not yet conducted interviews with the father and mother. They have been in no condition to be interviewed up to this point. There are a number of people, including some family members, who have provided lengthy interviews and non-testimonial evidence. The non-testimonial evidence includes hair, blood, and handwriting samples. Police are continuing their investigation of the Ramsey home, the principal crime scene. Police have not ruled out any suspects. There are no further details of the case, which will be released at this time. So there is, so now we understand. So if there is a doubt of what it means when they say continued or full cooperation, the family continues to cooperate. We now see what they mean by cooperation. And now we understand, based on what Leslie Holmes said in the update on January 7th of 1997, when they were asking about, they peppered her with questions about full cooperation. Is there full cooperation from the Ramsey family? And this is what they mean. There can be cooperation without full cooperation, is essentially what we're being told here. So although police have not yet conducted interviews with the father and mother, they are cooperating up to the point to where people are providing. So we got to be careful, because John admitted to this. John said, we went and gave hair, blood, and writing samples. That's cooperation. We are cooperating. We are cooperating with the police, non-testimonial evidence. But that's a very, now we're getting into the granularity of it. It's very different from testimonial evidence. We have non-testimonial and testimonial. You have some family members who have a number of people, including some family members, who have provided lengthy interviews and their hair, blood, and writing samples. So even though whether the cops thought it was you or not, they're still taking hair, blood, handwriting samples. Isn't that what the cops are supposed to do? Help me out. Help me understand that. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to follow up with other people, getting non-testimonial evidence, and then we're getting lengthy interviews. Okay. So page number 3, let's go on to page number 5. Again, I'm just skipping around to what seems important to me. That doesn't mean anything else in this report is not important. I'm just saying. So January 4th, 1997, contact Kelvin McNeil. Incident news release number 8, update on the Ramsey case. The Boulder Police Department investigation into the Ramsey homicide continues. This case is the highest priority of the Boulder Police Department. This is an active and ongoing investigation. There are no named suspects. There have been no arrests, and there are no arrests pending. Boulder police have talked with the counsel for the Ramsey family and made arrangements to return possession of the home to the family and their representatives, effective at 6:30 p.m. tonight. So again, January 4th is the date. We know that Paul went in there in a closed crime scene somewhere before this date, and somewhere before the funeral for JonBenét. So we're confirming here that she went into a closed crime scene and took something and brought it back out. I don't care how innocent you think it is. It's a closed crime scene. You should not have been removing anything from the house. Tell me again how the police bungled this thing. Tell me again how it's totally their fault when you have people going in and removing things from the crime scene. For me, I would be scared to touch anything. I would be scared that the police are watching me. So I wouldn't want to touch anything, let alone go in a room that's taped up with caution tape. You don't need anything from that room. JonBenét's not going to the funeral. She's in her own funeral. Oh, she may have needed to get a dress for JonBenét. You let the cops know, please, and not go in there and pull anything off of the walls, please. Thank you. Anyways, Boulder police have talked with the counsel for the Ramsey family and made arrangements to return their house. We're trying to give you your house back. Do you want to come back and live? You can if you need to. We're not trying to keep you out of your house. So in case you think you're holed up in Atlanta, you don't have to be. Come back. It is unknown if the family intends to resume residency at the home. We have no comment on the whereabouts of the family at this time. Police are in the process of setting up an appointment to formally interview the Ramsey family. We expect the family to continue to be cooperative with investigators, and the interview is now a matter of scheduling. So you thought. Police are in the process of setting up a formal interview. So let's get the semantics correct. So we may have talked to police. Ramseys may have talked to police a little bit, but we haven't formally sat down and interviewed you just yet. Okay, this is important because while you're trying to make us think that you have legitimately sat down and talked to police, You have talked to police in as much as you have given the non-testimonial evidence. That's one. That's a part of cooperation, but it's not full cooperation. You have talked to the police in the respect that on the scene, when they asked you some questions, you gave us information that this was a kidnapping. But and you basically did what they told you to do in terms of go look over here, set yourself up for getting a call from the ransom note people. But anything other than that, nothing much. Boulder police continue to request that anyone with possible information on this case to please contact the voicemail tip line at 303-441-4310. The tip line has received over 250 calls as of today. Police are screening the calls and will make return phone calls as are appropriate. Detectives who are sent to Atlanta are all expected to be back in Boulder by Monday night. The returning investigative team will be debriefed by the case supervisors to determine next steps in the investigation. Okay, let's go to page 7 through 8. Okay. The CBI will also be handling the analysis of the non-testimonial evidence, hair, blood, and handwriting samples taken from friends and some family members. Samples have been taken from the father and siblings. Some of the analysis may take weeks to complete. Boulder police have not detained anyone, nor have they identified any suspects at this time. Police want to let neighbors know there's no cause for concern. There are police on duty in the area 24 hours a day. Boulder police have received a number of calls from around the country, and if people have information they would like to provide to police, call Crime Stoppers. This is an important line, because Officer French was on the scene in 3 minutes. He was on the scene in 3 minutes. So I would think that's relatively legitimately safe. If you have some, first of all, we ain't having no, from what we know in this report, I believe, it said that, the Boulder police from 1990 to 1995, according to Chief Kobe, can't remember his first name exactly, but according to police Chief Kobe at the time, he said we've had 15 homicides from 1990 to 1995, and we've solved 13 of them. 85% clip, doing pretty good. You make an 85 on the test, you're good. Going into 8. For immediate release in January 2nd of 1997, jumping back in time a little bit, the update says Boulder police last night sent 5 police investigators to Atlanta to continue their investigation of the Ramsey case. They will continue to interview family members, friends, and gather background information. The officers have been authorized to approach the family to schedule an interview with them in Boulder at a later time. The 5 Boulder police officers are Larry Mason, Tom Trujillo, Jane Harmer, Steve Thomas, and Ron Gosich. The officers are expected back sometime Monday. Now, this is January the 2nd. And from what we know, just a couple of pages ago, the police did not want to approach John and Patsy Ramsey because they just told you they're in no condition to talk right now. That shows an element of understanding and care and empathy from the police department. That shows that the police department is continuing to consider your needs. They acted like the police department just ran them over. That's the narrative coming from John and Patsy Ramsey, that the police just ran them over. And the cops are making a press release through Leslie Ahom saying, look, man, we have not approached the family yet. We don't feel comfortable. They're still in a state of shock. We know that the first 48 is important, but we're going to wait out of respect for the family. They told us it's a kidnapping, but we know that's not true. We know it's a homicide by now. But out of respect for the family, we're going to continue to coordinate victim services for the family and at schools, for mental health purposes, even in time before mental health was really popping like that. We're going to continue to do that. But now we're going to try to approach them and see if we can't get an interview, because it's crucial. It's very critical at this point to see if we can talk to you guys. That's 7 through 8, or that's 7 through 8. Here's number 8. Boulder police were completely taken by surprise. And let me go back. That's what I want to show. Was it page number 5? or page number 6. Tremendous amount of material to evaluate. Okay, here it goes. Because I'm going to this because of December 30 of 1996. We want to let neighbors know there's no cause for concern in case you think that there are people running around the neighborhood. This is right before the murder, or right before the funeral. I'm sorry. That was December 30th. January 7th of 97. This is page 8. Police were completely taken by surprise by the Ramseys CNN interview, but have no comment on the contents of that interview. However, they do concur with Mrs. Ramsey, or Ms. Ramsey's statement that she provided police with hair, blood, and handwriting samples. She did do that. Evidence is still being taken from the Ramsey home, and police hope to conclude that portion of the investigation sometime late Friday or Saturday. The police have received numerous calls from people around the country and have set up a voicemail number, which people can call if they wish to leave a message. Okay. Further, January 7th, the Boulder Police Department continues to actively investigate the Ramsey homicide. Police investigators who were in Georgia and Michigan have all returned to Boulder and will be debriefed by the case supervisors to determine next steps in the investigation. In both Michigan and Georgia, investigators continued obtaining background information and talking with friends and family members of the Ramseys. They're talking with friends and family members of the Ramseys. They have yet to talk to the Ramseys. This is January 7th. In Michigan, investigators executed a search warrant for the Ramsey home in Charlevoix. That search warrant has been sealed by a judge in Michigan. Investigators were in Michigan from Friday, January 3rd to Monday, January 6th. Police were in court this morning requesting that the search warrant for the Ramsey's Boulder home be sealed, and I think that was granted. So, other procedural updates. The Ramsey legal counsel have offered to respond to some questions supplied by Boulder police last week. We cannot confirm if those responses have been returned to police at this time. Police will not be releasing information on the questions and answers. Police have nothing further to add on the issue concerning formal questioning of the Ramsey family. The CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigations, continues to process material related to this investigation. Depending on the type of examination needed, the test results would take weeks to months to complete. Police do not plan to release the results of those lab tests except in court. Police have received almost 300 calls on their voicemail tip line. They are monitoring and logging those calls and responding to those that you'll promise. This is an important point. Depending on the type of examination, the test results would take weeks to months to complete. So guess what that means? That means that we need to continue to go talk to the Ramsey family. That's what that means. That means that there's going to need to be some follow-up. That means you cannot hide behind your lawyers if you want this case solved. There needs to be some follow-up because we have to get this stuff concluded, right? Furthermore, the results are not going to be released except in court. We need to go to court for this stuff to be released. We want to talk about this stuff in court. We don't plan to release these results. But guess what? Hal Haddon knocking on the door. Give me all of that. I want it all and got it all, so that they can jump in and be like, oh, it's absurd, that you would, consider me. I mean, they weren't even going to tell us. Yeah, they told you in a report, in a press release, that they weren't going to release it to anyone. And that includes, that's not just y'all, that's tabloids, that's newspapers, that's everyone. We're not going to release that. Now it can get dirty and we might have to, just kind of like the body worn cameras now. They don't plan to really release those, but they got to do it now in the spirit of full transparency. But they didn't plan to do that for anyone. Okay, moving on to page 11. I'm going to skip to page 11. For immediate release on January 9 of 1997, Ramsey case news release. Boulder Police Chief Thomas G. Colby delivered the following message to the Boulder community in a live broadcast on City Municipal Cable Channel 8. Like Leslie said, we're going to be on Channel 8 as always. 2 weeks ago today, a violent criminal act took away from this community one of our innocents, JonBenét Ramsey. She did not deserve to be killed, for she had done nothing in her young life to harm anyone. We are grieving as a community for our loss. I hope to use this forum as a means to aid the process. I hope to provide insight into this event that has been difficult to communicate because of the inherent conflict between the media's desire to provide all of the information they can obtain and the Boulder Police Department's desire to protect the integrity of our investigation. I've had many members of this community ask me about comments indicating that there is a killer on the loose in our community. So he's referring to the CNN interview with Patsy. I think he's referring to the CNN interview with Patsy Ramsey. I think that's what it is. The question, or he may not, but anyways, the question raises, but he's heard it. He's making you aware that I've heard it. The question this raises is there a need for community members to be fearful? There is no question that there is a person or persons responsible for this act who have not been apprehended. It is my advice now, as it is at any time, that we need to be vigilant with respect to persons who may do us harm, but this needs to be kept in perspective. In this country, for the last 2 years, 65% of the homicides have been cleared. That means that in 35% of the cases of murder in the United States, the person responsible has not been apprehended. The reality we all live with every day is that we may have many dangerous people in this community and communities across the country who are all walking the streets. We all know this intellectually. However, we really never have to deal with it until it strikes close to us. We were not living in fear before this incident, and we cannot be forced to live in fear now. It is the best judgment of the Boulder Police Department that this is a one-time occurrence. The killing of JonBenét does not appear to be linked to any other similar event. What this means is that we do not believe we have a serial situation to deal with. Should the Boulder community be concerned and vigilant? Yes. Should we be living in fear? No. Can I guarantee that this will not occur again? No. There have been many stories and much speculation about who killed JonBenét. This is an area that I know will be explored in greater detail in the questions to follow. Let me offer a perspective on this issue. Prejudging and media hype have never solved a crime. Crime solving requires diligent and careful police work, and that is exactly what the Boulder Police Department is committed to doing. Going into number 12, that's on my list. I made a special note on this one. It is a natural response to tragedy like this for the community to want to know immediately who is responsible. It is often an effort to assure ourselves that such a tragedy will never happen to us again, or happen to us. The reality of the situation is that often these types of investigations may take some time to solve. The integrity and competence of the men and women of the Boulder Police Department have been challenged, of course. So we're already challenging the police's integrity and competence on January 9th. We don't even know anything about the investigation. We haven't collected any of the data. And we've already called the police stupid. In 2 weeks? They're stupid in 2 weeks? We don't even have all of the information. We haven't got any results back. And they're stupid in 2 weeks? We don't know everything. Not all of the information has come back. We're stupid in 2 weeks. That's weird. This has been challenged. Let me first say that I have never had the privilege of working with more competent, dedicated professionals. They are getting the job done. We will not lose the focus of this investigation to respond to meaningless and unfounded remarks. Unfounded. Like I said in a previous video, you calling into question the competence of the police department, John, is unfounded and it's baseless. You have no reason, and you have not provided any reason other than the fact that you did not like that they were investigating you and your wife and your son and people close to you. Other than that, you slandered them. Oh, y'all are dumb. Oh, y'all are incompetent. Oh, you guys don't know what you're doing. Let's be specific. What are they not doing right? Well, they're not allowing anyone to help them. Well, yes, they are. We've answered that question. They have the FBI and everybody else, as we will see, as we will continue to see. So again, help me understand. How specifically are they incompetent and lacking integrity? Because there was a lot of mudslinging at the police from the very beginning. and the police had yet to say anything. The police had yet to say anything crazy. They have yet to say anything, but out of nowhere, they start getting a barrage of hate. 2 weeks in, all of a sudden they're incompetent. All of a sudden the police are looking at us and we don't like it. You guys are stupid. You need to let people help you. Inside of 2 weeks, pay attention. Meaningless and unfounded remarks. This organization is well respected in our community. That respect has been earned over many years because of the level of competent service we have provided. Again, it is unfortunate that those who have anointed themselves as experts have seized the opportunity to offer criticism which has no basis in fact. Let me assure the citizens of Boulder that the men and women of this department are doing everything that can be done to solve this case. All of the resources that my people have needed to do their work have been provided. Our success is very good in homicide investigations. Over the last 5 years, 1990 to 1995, they don't get a lot of murders. We have had 15 homicides in Boulder. We have solved 13 of them. That means we have an 85% rate of success with these investigations. Everyone that comes our way, like I told y'all in the previous video, it's just like riding a bike. Over the last 5 years, let's say you've had 15 cases. That's 3 cases a year on average. I think they just had one in 1996, but about 3 cases on average, right? And $13, 2.6 of those cases, man. We've had 3 cases per year on average, and we've solved 2.6 of those. That means if we round down 2 of 3 cases, we get 3 cases every year. 2 of those cases we solve every year, if we round down. And that's getting us to like 66% every year that we're solving. So we're on the upside. Even if we round down, we're still on the upside. Will we want a better rate of success? Yeah, but this is 85% for the cases. Look, we can't help that this is a safe community. But for the cases that have come to us, we've solved them. Just like riding a bike, baby. You know, look, I'm doing everything I can to solve this case. How are they incompetent? Okay. We're not working in the investigation alone. When we have needed assistance, we have reached out to those who could provide help. Alex Hunter, the district attorney, has had his personnel working with us from the first hours of this investigation. George Epp, Boulder County Sheriff, has provided us support in the areas of crime scene search and interviewing of witnesses. Pat Alstrom, Director of Colorado Department of Public Safety, has the Colorado Bureau of Investigations processing the evidence we have submitted as quickly and effectively as possible. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, Denver and Boulder offices has provided us its expertise as we have asked for it. This violent act has deeply affected the members of the Boulder Police Department. We are fortunate that we work in an environment where we have not built up the hardened shell, which yet you often find in other communities. But that means we still feel for the victims of violent crime. We're vulnerable. Many of us are parents who have felt this loss very deeply. We're doing our own debriefings within the organization to deal with our grief, just as community members are participating in debriefings to help themselves cope. The support we have received from the community means a great deal to us. Thank you. On behalf of the department, I would like to publicly acknowledge the political leadership. I'm sorry, because I'm looking at this name right here. Look, sometimes I get excited, and I'm trying to get to this name right here. I'm trying to get to that name right there. I would like to publicly acknowledge the political leadership of this community as publicity as much publicity as there has been around this incident. It would be very easy for it to have become very political. That has not happened. Mayor Leslie Durgan, our city council and city manager, Tim Honey have never wavered in their support for this organization. Their steady hand in this matter has enabled us to go forward with the investigation without distraction. Because of their steadfast support, they have enhanced our capacity to solve this case. They have honored their roles as community leaders. I wanted to get to this part right here because if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Hold on. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what I wanted. I remember that name. I remember it. So this is the Vanity Fair article, Missing Innocents. And blah, 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 blah. Manager Tim. Weeks earlier, the police union had voted no confidence in their chief, and soon after, city manager Tim Honey, Kobe's good friend and biggest cheerleader, resigned. Kobe's idea of police work is social work, says a confidential source scornfully. Morale became so low that Mayor Leslie Durgan received an assurance from Kobe that he would see the case through. Leslie. Here we go. Judith Phillips. Well, looking for, because I remember that name. Judith Phillips, who last saw Patsy in March, says, I was still a true blue supporter of her. According to Phillips, Patsy asked her to contact Leslie Durgan, Boulder's mayor, and pal of Phillips's. Durgan, who describes Patsy as barely an acquaintance, was surprised at the message Phillips conveyed from her. Why aren't you protecting me? Durgan tersely replied via Phillips. We're doing everything we can. I am supporting the police. Oh man, it's always nice to kind of see that come through. So Leslie Durgan, she's supporting the police. As she said, we're backing that up. Again, we are confirming what is being said in the Vanity Fair article. Anyways, that's a little small tidbit. Last, before we get into questioning, let me be very clear about the focus of the Boulder Police Department in this matter. Our allegiance is solely to JonBenét Ramsey. We have a mission. We have dedicated ourselves to bringing justice to the person or persons responsible for her death. Everything else is secondary. We will not be deterred. Exactly. But I want to kind of go back up here for a second. This violent act has deeply affected the members of the Boulder Police Department. We are fortunate to work in an environment basically where it's a small community to where we can still feel. Sometimes when you watch these crime scene investigation shows and they talk about some of these small towns, you can see some of the police start crying, because this is not just some big city to where you say, oh man, you see this kind of deal every day. In this small community, you get around, you talk to people, you have conversations with people. Sometimes that's the benefit of a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Man, I remember I got pulled over one time. I was going through a small town in Texas and I got pulled over one time. And it was weird because town was so small. I don't even think they had a real judge. I think they just had a sheriff. I had never encountered this before, and they gave me a ticket. The guy gave me a ticket, and I drove back up there to talk to the guy, and to talk to the judge is what I thought. And so, man, I'm getting up there, man, and the guy walks out, and I go in the place where they told me, and I'm looking around, and it's just like a small little, small little building. I wouldn't even call it a building. I'd just call it like a small little house or something like that. I wouldn't even call it a house. It's just like I don't even know what to call it. But I'm walking in this place, and I go up to the counter and I talk to the receptionist, and she's like, okay, I said, I'm here for my ticket, here to speak to the judge. She said, and she leaned back and she was like, sheriff or something like that. And she said, you can just wait and he'll come out. And out walks this guy in a cowboy hat, you know what I'm saying? He got the boots on, he got the belt buckle and everything. He's got his shirt on, blue jeans and stuff like that. And I'm like, what's going on here? And it's weird because he said, come on, let's walk outside. And we walked outside and we sat on the bench out front. And I'm like antsy because, I'm expecting to go to court. You know what I mean? I'm expecting to go to court and be very procedural and very uptight and very formal. And he's just sitting there, with his leg crossed. He sits down and sits on the little bench with his leg crossed. And he's like, who are your parents? You know, how your parents feel about this? And I'm sure they wouldn't want you doing this, that, and third, and blah, blah, blah. And he says, so essentially, I'm gonna let you off with a warning this time. I'm gonna let you go, you know, but make sure you don't come back to my office. And I make that, and I left, and I was like, and I'm driving away, and I'm like, what just happened? You know what I mean? Like, what was that? Because you're so used to being detached, you know. I say that to say that as an example of these smaller communities who want a connection with you. They want to be connected with you because they are small. And so that's why you have a lot of these socials, these small little events and stuff like that within the community, because it's designed to they're really friends. And so I continue to say that we still feel for the victims of the violent crime. Many of us are parents and felt the loss very deeply. We're doing our own debriefing. So basically, just like you have, they're trying to do, and this is the cops saying, we're trying to do everything that we can to stay sane, to stay locked in. When you work as a cop, again, I'm not a police apologist, so please don't, I'm not acting like the cops are perfect. But what I'm saying in this case is, we often ask the police to be more mindful of people's mental health, be more mindful of people's situation, and they're doing it. Oh, don't just rush to judgment. Listen to what I'm telling you. You didn't even hear what I was saying, and they did. What would you have them do? They did. You said it was a kidnapping, and they did. Oh, you bungled it because of you. Because of what you told me, I did what you said. And I get criticized by you for doing what you told me to do. They missed steps in this investigation because of what John and Patsy told them. What? How does that work? I get criticized for helping you. Talking about biting the hand that feeds you. Bruh. Not only that, but I thought I was like, yo, I know Steve Thomas doesn't have kids, but I know these people have kids. So they feel for you, especially in these small towns. They're like, man, I hope we can find this. A lot of these people, again, when you watch these crime investigation shows from these small towns, and they cry and they tell the parents directly, like Lou Smith said, it's on par. John, I'm going to find this person. And they make it personal. They make it their business to stay on the case for 30 some odd years and to celebrate with the family. Some even taking it to their grave like Lou Smith, because they really want to find this person. They really want to find justice. So they're not even from this. They want to find an individual. They're not even looking for the parents. This is the police motivation. They're not even looking for the parents. They're looking for a monster. That's who they're looking for. So if we think about the psychology and the breakdown and the motivation of the police department, they're not even thinking the Ramseys. They don't want it to be the Ramseys. If I can go out on a limb, they don't want it to be the Ramseys. They want to find somebody that's not from this community. So they can pull them in and say, we don't know this person. We've never seen this person, but this person came in and snuck in on us unawares, and they committed one of the most heinous crimes that we've ever seen. And we are happy today to bring them to justice. That's what they wanted to say. Somebody not from this community did this, because we hate to believe that somebody from Boulder, Colorado, this small community where everyone loves everyone and everybody's family, somebody from this community would do this to their own. Why would the police want to believe that? Even though Greg McCrary, FBI profiler, is telling you 92% of the time you need to be looking at the parents. Ron Walker, FBI, is telling you you need to be looking at the parents and the family. The Boulder police are saying, look, man, we feel you. We have kids ourselves. We would never want it to be. I could never see myself doing this to my kid. So we want to find this person for you. And because we feel this so deeply, as we often ask the police, listen to us, listen to our mental needs, and they are listening to the mental needs of John and Patsy Ramsey. You said you don't want to talk to us. You said you're on medicine and you're on medication and you can't talk to us right now. Fine. We won't bother you. We will respect you. Even though we still need the body, we will respect you enough to give you the body and just let that go. We know this is going to hamper the investigation immensely, but we will let that body go. We're not jerks like that. We will let that body go. We just want you to be happy. We want you to be able to grieve in the best way that you can with the body, with your family. As we see in the funeral, though, y'all left Burke behind, but that's another story. We want you to be able to grieve as best as you can. What you do with the body and your family from there on is your decision. But we want you to grieve, so so you can continue to, we're bringing in victims advocates, and we're going to put that in the schools and continue a tip line for that so that you still have access to that. We're not going to question you till after this thing. Before y'all spoke to the police, though, the police wanted to interview, and you knew the police wanted to interview. But before you spoke to the police, though, you went on CNN the very next day because you knew there was an urgency. The very next day after the funeral, you went on CNN because you knew there was an urgency to get your story out. What story? All of a sudden we throwing shots at people. Hey, bro, what's going on, man? Chief Kobe, man, I'm shocked at the CNN interview. I don't know where that came from. Came out of nowhere. Bro, we thought we were on good terms. What's the deal? Why are you attacking me? I haven't done anything. This is what John and Patsy Ramsey are doing. This ain't got nothing to do with the police. Police were going about their merry little business. They didn't come for John. They didn't come for Patsy. Patsy and John came for them. Out of nowhere. Imagine minding your business. Imagine being so preoccupied that you are minding your business and then somebody takes a shot at you and you be like, how did I get in it? What did I do? That's what's happening here from the very beginning. See, I'm talking about paying specific attention to how narratives get created. This is going to play a huge role when I present on Hal Haddon and his associates and their legal strategy. This is going to play. You will soon see just how intentional this was. This chaos is very intentional. This chaos is very intentional. They did this on purpose. You got to go on TV. You have a PR person. And all of a sudden, it's the police don't want to. What's your story? The police don't want to look at anybody else but us. It's December 27th. It's the next day. We haven't talked to anybody about anything. My point here is that the police care. And they're doing everything not only to take care of your mental health, but they're doing everything that they can to take care of their own mental health, just like we tell them to. So that they can be as fresh as possible, as locked in and as tuned in as possible. Because they know that this is a very violent act. This is crazy. It's crazy that this happened to this little girl from what we've seen. It's crazy that this happened to this little girl. So I need to check my mental to say that, to make sure that I'm sane, to make sure that I'm stable. Number 15, page 15. That was crazy, man. Page 15. Yeah, here we go. Boulder police are confident that the investigation by Boulder County Sheriff, and this is on, I think, January 13th. City of Boulder strongly deplores the unauthorized distribution and publication of coroner photos related to the death of JonBenét Ramsey. Boulder police are confident that the investigation by Boulder County Sheriff George Epp and his deputies being conducted in cooperation with Boulder County Coroner Dr. John Meyer will be thorough and will find who is responsible for this violation. The Boulder police believe that this unauthorized release will not impede the ongoing investigation. However, any information which becomes public or common knowledge prior to an arrest will restrict the police department's ability to confront the persons responsible for the homicide with specific facts in the case, which would otherwise only be known to the perpetrator. So we got to be quiet a little bit, right? We got to be quiet a little bit because we're trying to keep some things. This is a police strategy. to keep some things for ourselves that, only the perpetrator would know, so that you don't have the Gary Olivas, and then you don't have the John Mark Carrs, right? That people that, you'd be like, oh man, it sounds like you know what you're talking about, until you look and you're like, oh, all of this stuff is in the news. Do you know anything that's specific to the case? No. All right, get out of my face. January 14th. City of Boulder is pleased that the Boulder County and Globe magazine have reached a settlement concerning the unauthorized distribution of the coroner's photographs related to the JonBenét Ramsey homicide. The city commends the county commissioners and the county attorney for their swift and decisive action in this matter, and are grateful for their continued partnership and support. The Boulder Police Department stresses that this matter has not distracted from the investigation or from the sole focus of this matter: finding out who is responsible for the murder of JonBenét and ensuring a successful prosecution. The homicide investigation is moving forward according to plan. The Boulder County Crime Stoppers is coordinating a reward of up to $100,000 for information related to the homicide investigation. Under a pending agreement, the Ramsey family and others will place this reward money with the Boulder County Crime Stoppers program. The Boulder County Crime Stoppers is a nonprofit corporation which assists police by anonymously gathering information on crimes. Boulder Police have offered, this is the part that I want to get to. Boulder Police have offered former FBI agent John Douglas, who has been hired by the Ramsey family, an opportunity to provide insight on the case. Mr. Douglas has been contacted and interviewed by Boulder detectives. What'd that say? What does that say? Consistent with what we expect and what we know about John Ramsey and his team, y'all went and hired experts to get insight and stuff like that. No doubt about that. We get that. No problem. No problem. No problem. Y'all went and hired experts to help you. FBI agent. And here we see a connection, don't we? We see a connection. The police don't want to work with us. The police don't want to receive help. Who is this? Former FBI agent. You remember when Patsy said, it's my understanding that we have people from, that administer the polygraph who taught your people to administer the polygraph. Okay. And I'm not saying that this is the person who administered it. I'm just making the example that you are going out and you're getting experts, but you're saying that they're not wanting help. But not only are the police enlisting help, but they're enlisting help from your people, hired by the Ramseys family, an opportunity to provide insight on the case. We want to know what you think. He's been contacted for an interview by the BPD. I do want to make a note at this point. I haven't said it before, but you may be assuming that it's taken place. It hasn't. You know what I'm talking about. Up to this point, it hasn't. We talking to everybody but the people that need to be talked to. We talking to your dog. We talking to the front door of your house. We talking to the frog in the pond in the front yard. We're talking to the neighbors across the street. We're talking to the tires on your car. We are talking to the mechanic that fixes your alternator. Huh? We're talking to the guy who just fixed your left bumper because you hit a deer late at night because you were sleepy. And I'm just being facetious. We're talking to the person who's planning to do surgery on your right arm. I'm being facetious. Talking to the person who's going golfing with you next week. But somehow, some way, we still haven't talked to John and Patsy Ramsey or Burke. The people who did give us a call and let us know that they were interested in finding their daughter the day up, right? You did call us, right? And ask us to investigate your daughter's missing case. And we are here responding to you. We're talking to your boy, someone you hired, but somehow we can't talk to you. Let's go on down to 16. January 23rd, 1997. The Boulder police investigation into the death of JonBenét Ramsey continues. The investigation is moving forward according to plan. A formal interview with the Ramseys has not been scheduled, and no timeline has been established for scheduling. Police have not requested a polygraph examination of the Ramsey family. There is a core group of 10 to 15 Boulder police personnel assigned full-time to the investigation. The police investigators are responsible for the day-to-day management of the case, and other personnel are brought in as needed. This is a small department. If it is a small department, they've dedicated significant resources to try to find it. And as we will find out soon, they've dedicated a core group of 15 police personnel assigned full-time. We are trying to get this thing solved. We understand that there's a pressure. Police investigators are responsible for the day-to-day management of the case, and other personnel are brought in as needed. Not only have we assigned 10 to 15 people from our group, but we're also bringing in other people from outside, the CBI, the FBI, working with the Ramsey people. That's a significant amount of people. Police bungling. Okay. In addition, a daily public inventory of what test results have been completed will not be provided. Any test results returned to the Boulder police will only be discussed in the court of law. We want to hold that for the court of law. I'm on 16. I think that was January 24th for immediate release. Okay, I was going to look for January 24th. The following is a current statistical information fact sheet on investigation statistics. If you want to know on January 24th of 1997 where we are, almost a month later, we will let you know. The following is the current statistical information concerning the Boulder police investigation in the JonBenét Ramsey homicide. There have been no arrests in this case. There are no arrests pending, and police have not named any suspects. So as much as we would like to believe that the police were hot on the trail and disrespecting the Ramseys to high heavens, we haven't named any suspects in the case. We have not come out and formally said that the police are the problem, as we saw with Leslie in the January 7th update. We're not ruling anybody in or out. We're just still looking. Boulder police investigators have committed more than 3,000 hours of staff time to this case. The number of staff hours committed to this case is nearly the equivalent of 1.5 full-time police officers working for an entire year. One full-time person is 2,080 hours per year. Boulder police have interviewed over 90 individuals during the course of the investigation, both in Colorado and out of state. We have sifted through tips that are coming in on our tip line, and we have sat down so far with 90 people. And we're January 20, we're less than a month in. We've put in 3,000 hours. If we were to do the math, let's just say over 30 days, 3,000 hours divided by 30. A 100 hours per day, essentially, of staff time. Excuse me. 100 hours a day of staff time, or a little bit more, has been put into this case in under a month. 3,000 hours in total, but 15 people, along with other agencies, 3,000 hours, and interviewed 90 people in and out of state. The voicemail line that we set up, Crime Stoppers and Boulder County Crime Stoppers, received 1,100 telephone calls since the case. 5% of these calls we followed up on. Let's do the math. They won't take any help. No tips, no nothing. Said 1,100. 1,100 calls. Times 0.05. Excuse me. 5% of these calls have necessitated some form of follow-up. 55 of these calls 55 of these calls actually required our attention. That might seem small to you, but that's 55 people that they called back and said, hey, what'd you have to tell us? We've said, in addition to the 90 people that we've interviewed, we've checked up with 55 people. And make sure my math is correct. 1,100 times 0.05. 55, yeah. The Boulder County Crime Stoppers program is coordinating a reward of up to $100,000. Money is being provided by the Ramsey family and others. So you got people coming to your aid. Do you see the picture going on? There is a community effort being provided here to the Ramseys because people are it's not just the cops. People are trying to help solve the case, as people are now. They're coming and hugging the Ramseys and saying, let's get this thing solved. What do you need from us? You need money to get people incentivized. They're trying every trick in the book. We're trying all agencies. We're trying to get people incentivized. We're trying to do DNA. We're trying to interview family and friends. We're going across state lines, giving you time. We're setting up crime units. What do you need? The police at this point could not have been more supportive. What do you need, John and Patsy? We understand that you went through this horrible crime. What can we do? All the while, look at all the, you put 3,000 man hours into this thing in just under a month. 100 hours a day we're working on this case for you, dedicating significant and substantial resources of this small, insignificant, inept department. We're dedicating, we're trying 100 hours a day. We got to find something, right? Boulder police have received over 500 letters from members of the public regarding this case. Police do not have an internet site, so information is not being received through the internet. But we see clear evidence of, we're on page 17. We see clear evidence that people are helping. Page 18. Case continues. No arrests and no pending arrests. No suspects being named. February the 5th. We're going into the next month. I wanted y'all to see this. Go ahead. City Manager Tim Honey today received an update on expenditures related to the Ramsey investigation. Police Department has incurred expenses relating to overtime, travel related to investigative expenses. This is February the 5th, a little over a month. Overtime, 605 hours of overtime. This is in 1996. This is from 1996 with just 4 days. 26, yeah, they got over there in 26, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. In 6 days, working tirelessly. This is what they did. 248 travel expenses, 788 investigative. In 6 days, they spent $21,000. A lot of it, let me break down the numbers for you. 20,340. I'm saying so we on the same page. 0.80 divided by 21, 377.73 times 100, so we can make it easy. 95.149. Let's round that up. 95.15. Let's just round it. 95. 95% of these expenses are overtime. What that mean? If we dig a little deeper, what does that mean? That means outside of the investigation expense, when people are just on the clock, people have stayed to continue working, bungling, police bungling, 604 hours of bungling. 604. Let's say 605 to round it up. 605. Nope. Let's round it down. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt. 604 divided by 6 days. Right on par with what we said, right? 100.66, 100.67. Let's round it like it's 101. 101 hours. 604.75. Let's be precise. 604.75 divided by 6 days. 100.79. 100.8. 101. Outside of normal hours, they have dedicated 600 hours to this case. That means on top of the normal time that they are spending on this case, they have spent 100 more hours a day. If I'm saying that correctly, they have spent 100 more hours a day. All of this in 6 days. They have not gotten an interview with the Ramseys. February the 5th, we're doing a report, and in 6 days, while the Ramseys were talking to their lawyers and going off to Atlanta and then deciding that they wanted to jump on CNN on the 1st, this is what the cops were doing. Instead of being home with their family, they were dedicating more time on this case. And look what John and Patsy said about the police. The constant narrative that they don't want any help. They don't want anybody coming in. They're not doing anything. They're not checking up on anything. They have to go through, let me find it, 1,100 telephone calls. John, are you doing that? You going through 1,100 telephone calls? Trying to sift out. Have you ever, and I'm asking as a general question to anybody watching right now, have you ever gone through 1,100 phone calls? 1,100 just to see, and that's just one part of the job. Going through 1,100 phone calls and then following up with 55 of those people and giving a call back. Have you ever, look, I say that because I used to work for a place to where we took a lot of phone calls in, because when you're public facing, it takes a lot out of you. When you are in a job that is public facing, I worked in a job that was somewhat public facing, and then I have a brother that works in a public facing job. When you deal with people, it is exhausting and mentally burdensome. Dealing with people will give you more gray hairs faster than anything else, I'm convinced. Difficult people. Let me say that. Dealing with difficult people, because people can be difficult for various reasons. We never know what people are going through, so I can't go crazy on that. But there's still a level of difficulty that gives you gray hair in this thing. Have you ever, when I was working for this public facing company, we had voicemails that, we would be on the phone with other people, and while we were on the phone, we would have voicemails come through. And by the time you got off the phone with an individual, your brain would be so zapped, and you would literally just give a sigh of exhaustion. Oh, God. And you kind of develop a PTSD in a way. You kind of develop a PTSD because by the time the phone rings again, like you're down and you're like, oh my God, that was a lot. And you're just sitting there because you don't know what to do next. Do I go to the restroom? Do I get up and take a walk and just clear my mind? It's just, man, that was a lot. Another call comes in. Oh my God. And you have to snap out of it and jump back into the next call. All right, got to get my mind up. And your body is going through a lot of tensing up, cooling down, heat up, cool down, heat up, cool down. That's not good. I had to get up out of that job because I started to see the stress hairs coming in, the gray hairs coming in from stress. I had to get up out of that job, and I probably would have had heart attack. And, you know, that's, you know, man, when you're dealing with public facing stuff, you know, we would see, the ambulance come up to the job, man. It was nothing. You know, I'm not saying it happened all the time, but it was nothing to, you know, it was nothing to come up to the job site and see an ambulance sitting out front with the lights on. You walk upstairs, look to your left. You know what I'm saying? Walk upstairs, look to your left, and they got a stretcher out, getting the person up and ready to go, you know, and you just say, man, you're like, and I'm looking at it like, is that going to be me one day? You know, I say, yo, I got to get out of here. But this shows that when you're public facing, the heavy burden, because 1,100 calls is just one part of the job. I get off the phone, 1,100 calls. All right, we sit down. Nobody wants to do it, but we're going to sit down and we're going to go through these calls. 10 to 15 people, 1,100 calls. Oh my God, that is tough. Say 15. That's 73 calls. Yo, that's like 73 calls per person. If we say 15 people, that's 73 callbacks we got to make. My God. Ugh. And calls are just coming in. Who would have a tip to provide for little old Boulder, Colorado? My God. Golly. And 5%, 55 people actually warranted. All right, let's make a note. We got to call these people back. Getting on the call. Okay. No, that ain't nothing. Okay, that ain't nothing. Okay, no, that ain't nothing. Okay, no, that ain't nothing. Record, listen back. Okay, I'm going to save this one. That's just, and then you got to get up and do the rest of your job. We got to go interview people. We got to go out and find these people. We got to go through the letters. We got to go out and give briefings. We got to sit down. We got to go through the letters. We got to go out to the public and give briefings to the public. We got to let Leslie know what we need to tell the public and keep them updated. This is a very coordinated and structured effort. Police bungling, right? This has to be very coordinated and structured because we have to be able to present something to Leslie to say, Leslie, this is what we've done. And it has to be all coordinated in a way that Leslie can say, I need to do my job. I need to give. I think Leslie retired at 53, but I need to give, you know, I need to give the people what they need. So tell me what you have. This is a lot, man. I'm, you know, personally, I'm already stressed, you know, for the police because it's a lot. It's exhausting work. It's mentally exhausting work. And to have somebody coming up behind you, disrespecting you, telling you that you're like berating you as you're working, putting in 100 extra hours a day for their daughter, out of nowhere, somebody coming behind you and berating you and telling you that you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing, you won't receive help. And it's like, you're accusing me of everything that I am. Like you're saying that I'm not doing everything that I am doing. All the while, you will not grant us the opportunity to talk to you. You are one of the biggest factors in this investigation, and all we have from you is what we've said to you on the day of the crime, and hair, blood, and writing samples. That's all we have to go off of from you. You won't give us an interview to talk to you and be open enough for a follow-up. We can scarcely get an interview from you now. And this goes to the fact that Fleet and Priscilla White and Steve Thomas said, yo, it's been 3 or 4 months. In case you're wondering, we have not yet, the Ramseys have not yet talked to the police. These are not being hidden. These are news releases to the public. Do you understand me? These are news releases to the public to let people know what's going on in the case. And the Ramseys are telling people that the cops aren't doing anything. Yo, what? Give me just a second. Bro, we spent $21,000 and most of it was on overtime. What do you mean? 1997 and into 1997, bro, we're only in the beginning of February. Bro, that's a month in. We've spent $56,000 a month in, and most of that is over, bro. The overtime is heavy. 40,842.79 divided by 56,586.65 times 100, 72.2. Let's round it up to 72.2. 72% of our efforts are based on overtime. Travel expenses have increased significantly. They were 248, 11,491.96 divided by 248.38 minus 1. Bruh. I would say, had to check my math because it's astronomical. So let me do the calculation just so we know we're on the same page. 11,491.96 divided by 248.38. Okay, minus 1. That's 45.26, 45.28, but times 100 to get the actual percentage increase. 45,026.78% increase. 45,000% increase from this travel expense. And we're talking about in a little over a month. We got busy. Investigative efforts. Time on the investigation has increased substantially. 4251.90 divided by 788.55 minus 1 times 100. 439% increase. I'm not even going to do the overtime expenses, but they've doubled from 20,000 to 40,000 in just that short amount of time. The overtime expenses have doubled. The travel expenses have significantly more than doubled and tripled. The investigative expenses have more than doubled and tripled. They have increased significantly. We've gone from 21K to 56K in a month. And we are, so let me, okay, this is 19, 18 into 19. Cool. Total expenditures for 96 and 97 through January 26th are 77,964. So if we're wondering, all of this is a month in. This is for a month of work. Bar the 6 days, take the 6 days away. This is the first 6 days of the case. This is the remaining 20 days that they've worked on this. So in the first 6 days, they spent 21 grand, but in the remaining 20 days, they spent $56,000 for a total of $77,000 in a month. We got to watch our money. City manager Tim Honey says these figures need to be viewed within the overall context of the total police department budget of $14 million for 1997. The city's 1997 general fund budget for the city's general budget for 1997 is $68 million. At this point in time, these expenditures do not necessitate any adjustment to our budget. These budgetary issues, as well as any other city budgetary issues, will be evaluated throughout the course of the year. That means we spent $77,000, almost $78,000 on this case. All right. We just need to be fiscally responsible. $14 million in 1997 is your total budget. You know, we got a long way to go. Our total budget for the city is $68 million. We gave y'all $14 million. So police are responsible for 20%, 21% of the budget. Police efforts for the year are responsible for 20% of the budget. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it seems pretty good to me. And already they spent $77,000. Just a little bit of the budget. But we got to monitor this because, we have other things that we need to tend to as police. We have other cases that we need to tend to as police. So let's be mindful of that. Okay. So I have a lot more to go. I'm going to stop it right here because this has been extensive. This is probably a headache up to this point, but this has been extensive. I have a lot more. Well, I don't know if I have a lot more to go. I think I'm maybe halfway through. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there's anything that surprised you, or maybe you already knew this. I know this is old, but let me know your thoughts when you first saw it or something like that, or just whatever you want to tell me, stuff like that. Thank you for engaging, and hope you're having a great day or night. Hope you're sleeping well or something like that, whatever you're doing. But like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. And for those of you who are sharing, in my analytics, I see that there are a fair amount of shares, good amount of shares, I believe. And, as I say, man, I'm always surprised that they're sharing my content and stuff like that. So, I appreciate that. If you're reviewing my content, if you're reacting to my content, whether you are or not, I don't know of anybody who is. I appreciate it. I appreciate you reviewing my stuff. I appreciate that my stuff is legitimate enough or interesting enough for you to review, whether you're criticizing it or critiquing it or you're reviewing it in a favorable light. The fact that you are, because this stuff is for the community as a whole. You know what I mean? When you are in certain circles that you do research and stuff like that, and people review your stuff, that stuff is for the community. People are not always going to agree with you. They're not always going to agree with your point. And obviously, people get pretty passionate, about that. So sometimes names fly, and I don't encourage that. I actually encourage against that. I encourage against bullying. So if you're in the comments, jumping under people's comments, and when I say bullying or something like that, you're sort of being aggressive towards people, and you're sort of being antagonistic. Right. So if I see anything antagonistic or something like that, and I don't see it all the time, but if I do see anything antagonistic, I tend to try to address it. If I see it, I tend to try to address it. Or if it gets too antagonistic, where you're starting to call people names and stuff like that, and you're starting to question people's intelligence, I'm going to remove that. And when I say question people's intelligence, you're calling them all kind of names and telling them, have you thought about this? And I'm not questioning, have you thought about, but in terms of you're essentially saying, you're so stupid. Have you thought about this? Blah, 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 blah. I don't encourage that. And you're insulting them in a way, just because you don't agree with their point. Look, we're not going to agree. This case is so vast and it's so wide. We're not going to agree on everything. There are people who agree with my way of researching this case, that we don't see the suspect the same. They have reasons why they think of a certain individual did this, that I see it and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think that because of this other evidence, but that makes sense because we're all kind of going through this together. So even though we're on the same page, we don't agree on that. That's not a cause for me to question, call their intelligence into question. So that's all I'm saying. Like I said, if you're reacting to my videos, if you're watching my videos, you're adding my videos to playlist, all of that, man, I appreciate that. I'm just very appreciative of it, I guess I'm saying. So like, share, subscribe, continue to do what you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. For my members filing in very slowly, thank you so much once again for being members. I know that I'm kind of new to this. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to do something. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you becoming members and believing enough in me to become a member and stuff like that. And for those of you who have sent support in terms of super thanks and stuff like that, thank you so much for doing that. For those of you who continue to view and like the video and stuff like that and drop comments, thank you so much for doing that and engaging with the content. I'm done. Appreciate you. Until next video, take it easy.